Hi, welcome back to Informs What's Your Story. I'm Kara Tucker, editor of ORMS Today. I'm joined today by Ralph Asher. He is the founder of Data Driven Supply Chain, an adjunct instructor at the University of St. Thomas, and a Marine Corps reservist. Is that correct?
That's right.
Thank you so much for being here today. We're going to start with a fun question about you. Tell us something that not many people know about you.
Well, I actually, when I started college, I started as an English major. I used to read and write a lot of poetry, just read it now. And something that's kind of funny about me from my past, I used to be on active duty in the Marine Corps. And when I was in a dining facility in Iraq, I actually met my second cousin
Oh,
for the very first time.
did you know that we're going to be
No,
there?
I did not. And I had no idea who this person was.
Okay.
And in military fatigue, your last name's on your shirt.
Oh, yeah.
So I walk in with my peers, and this man who's a civilian in his 50s wearing civilian clothes, he walks up to me, pops up in the seat, walks up to me and says, "Are you from the Clay County, Kentucky Ashers?" I said, "Well, yeah, my dad grew up there."
Sucks.
And we start talking. Kind of a unique question.
Yeah.
Some stranger to ask.
Right? What if you said no?
Yeah. It'd been very awkward. But it turns out like 45% of people with my last name are from
Really?
Kentucky or have origins there. And I said, "Yeah, my dad's from there." We get to talk, and he's my second cousin.
Wow.
So it was one of those
cool.
strange things that you would have never expected.
Do you
That's
keep
kind
in
of
touch?
no. I think we lost contact. He asked me if I go to the big family reunion. I said no, because I would probably recognize you if I did.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing
Thank you.
your story. So how long have you been an Informs member?
I have been an Informs member since fall of 2012. I actually looked it up
Okay.
for this.
You did.
Yeah,
I could have done.
yeah. When I was finishing my graduate degree in OR, and
Okay.
starting to look for work in the
Great.
OR space, I figured it's good to join professional
Okay.
relations.
So you joined as a student member
Yep, I
and
did.
then turned regular,
transition.
member, and
Yep.
one day a senior member.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Let's start with how you became interested in supply chain management.
It's a great question. So, started off active in the Marine Corps, and then I learned about OR. I didn't major in that, major in physics as an undergrad. And when I left active duty, I moved to Minnesota, settled down there, and I was just kind of looking for work in OR, right? And unfortunately, OR is not as well known as it should be. Yeah. And eventually, I met somebody who worked in a supply chain design group at General Mills, the food manufacturer there in Minneapolis.
Okay.
And, I was looking for, anywhere to apply this new degree.
Yeah.
And they said, "Hey, I think you'd be good at this." I said, "Great, let's do it." And so kind of started in supply chain OR in 2013 and still at it 12 years later. So
it's all about who you know. You just happen to meet someone.
yeah, I could have been in finance or something like that, but just met the right person and ended up in a great field.
Okay, good. And you love it, right?
I love it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So tell us more about your boutique consulting firm, Data Driven Supply Chain, and the path that led to its founding.
Yeah, great. So when I moved to Minnesota, I started working in supply chain OR at General Mills. After a couple of years there, I was hired to work at Target, which is in downtown Minneapolis, doing network design also.
Yeah.
I worked there for about 6 years. In the middle of COVID, I thought, hey, what am I going to do when I grow up?
Yeah.
And I thought, I really, really enjoy applying these kind of methods to new industries and new things like that. And a friend of mine suggested independent consulting.
Okay.
So I thought about it. And so took the plunge just shy of 4 years ago, in June 2021.
Yep.
And now have, so started with just me. Now I'm very fortunate to have a small team that works with me. We're 5. And we do network design, inventory optimization, forecasting, and manufacturing optimization, and a little bit on data visualization as well.
Okay.
Across sectors and with mostly larger companies, some smaller.
Okay. That's great. I had a follow-up and I lost it, but I'll come back to it. So when I was looking at your website, and you have something about sticky supply chain problems. So I want you to describe what that is, or maybe one that you had solved.
Yeah. So when I think about a sticky supply chain problem, it's one that everybody from first level analyst all the way up to the chief supply chain officer, they know this is a problem. This is a persistent problem, and we've put a lot of effort, a lot of thought, a lot of continuous improvement towards it.
Okay.
And we're just not making that problem. So it's sticky.
Okay.
And so our team comes out with the perspective of, okay, how are we going to approach this problem through an OR and analytics lens?
Okay.
One example of that was we did a project for a automotive parts distributor, and the business model of this distributor, it's all business to business, and they would distribute from roughly 100 distribution centers across the country to local chain and independently owned repair shops. A repair shop call and say, hey, we have a 72 Camaro on the rack and it needs an air filter. Do you have an air filter? And hopefully they have an air filter because they need to their business model kind of depended upon
Mm-hmm.
having everything for everybody.
Okay.
Well, if you maintain a lot of SKUs and you have them in a lot of places, they had a lot of excess inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question was, how can we actually reduce some of this inventory and move them to regional distribution centers? So maybe 8, 10 across the country in a way that reduces the overall inventory,
Mhm.
reduces how much we need at each location, but it does not reduce that commitment to service, because it was very important that they be able, an auto shop be able to call out, say,
Yeah.
I need these 20 different SKUs for tomorrow, and they dependably have that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was an interesting question because it was a combination of network design, meaning where should these regional distribution centers be? How should they align to the local ones? But also an inventory optimization problem. And you don't see those commonly together. They're usually separate questions. And so we kind of faced that as a combo question, combo project. So
And you figured it out?
we did, yeah. Yeah. So first step was recommending where those regional distribution centers should be. And they'd kind of done an internal analysis, and it was very close to what we recommended. So like, okay, this is pretty good. And then the next step saying, well, if you do put these regional distribution centers across the country, this is the alignment. Now, let's look at a item by item level and say, what are your demand patterns? How much you should be holding at the lower level, at the higher level, and then what is the risk of potentially not servicing your customers if you had it at the higher level?
Okay.
Because hey, maybe you can't truck your out, you can't get it to that local DC in town. So yeah, and end up was a SKU level result.
Yeah. So a sticky problem is not necessarily a supply chain problem that all people in the supply chain field have experienced. It's a sticky problem per
for that organization.
business.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. That's something they just can't figure out.
Yeah.
And that's when you come in.
Yeah. Well, it's a team effort. We hopefully help move the ball down the field, so to speak.
Yeah. Awesome. How do you stay current with trends and innovation from supply chain? I feel like things have changed, COVID, and so what do you do?
I read a lot. I follow a lot of industry newsletters, so there's a lot of those. So I'm pretty deliberate about following specific people on LinkedIn. So, there's a lot of pretty low signal to noise ratio with things on the internet, but you can be pretty particular about who you're listening to.
Yeah.
Wall Street Journal Logistics Report is very, very good for supply chain things. I recommend that. I also like to read popular books on supply chain because I like to see how the topic is being addressed by, it's usually journalists writing the book, by people who are not in the supply chain field. How are they perceiving things?
Interesting.
And that kind of gives a different perspective because being mired within a particular function, it's second nature to you.
Yeah.
But when somebody looks and realizes like, oh, I have no idea how this Amazon box actually got to my house.
Right.
Well, it's important to see how is that being perceived to the public.
Yeah, that's good. Interesting. Thank you. In your opinion, if you are happy to answer, how do geopolitical events or trade policies influence the way supply chains are operating today? I know that can get pretty deep.
But, how long we got for this?
I know.
Okay.
2 minutes. Go.
Okay, cool. All right, I'll be fun to stop. I mean, as a general rule, stability and predictability are key to predictable and reliable supply chains, right? So if you can't reasonably understand the circumstances in which you're going to operate next week or next month or next year, it's very difficult to make any plans, right? And so that's where you can hear talk about making supply chains more agile or nimble or whatever adjective you want to make. But these are tanker ships. They aren't canoes. Like it takes a very, very long time to realign supply chains.
Yeah.
And so when I think about some of the geopolitical issues, tariffs is a whole another ball of wax. I think it's going to be really, really difficult to reorient supply chains out of China to the degree that has been portrayed sometimes at popular press. There's a book that I'd recommend called How the World Ran Out of Everything by Peter Goodman.
Okay.
I'm not like a total fan of the book, but he gives a great case study of someone who wanted to manufacture something in America, couldn't do it. He tried to start getting it manufactured in China in mid-2020. Great time to start doing that. And then he tried to actually move manufacturing out of China into Cambodia or Vietnam.
Okay.
And he couldn't even do that because one part had to be made in China. So these things are all connected, and it's going to be very difficult to change these no matter what's going on in the world.
Do you think, are you going to get more clients coming to you with all these new things happening? Are you not super international, or what do you think?
We're not.
You in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's going to be more questions around just how do we broadly think about these decisions. I mean, probably just in the time since we sat down, there's going to be 3 more news headlines about retaliatory tariffs, and companies can always use tools that OR provides around
Mm.
scenario analysis and simulation and optimization to say, well, what could things look like if this
Right.
happens? What if this happens?
Yeah.
And are we making the right decision if either case happens, or are we making the wrong decision?
That's
That's
what
what we
if
do.
scenario.
Yeah, science of better, making decisions for a better world, right?
Yep,
That's what
yeah.
Informs is about.
Yep. Smarter decisions for a better world. You nailed it. Um, give us one of you. I think this was maybe part of a talk you were planning at the analytics conference, but if you can give us one of your 10 lessons learned from your time working in supply chain operations research that can help others grow their analytics career. Not
Yeah,
to give it all away.
yeah. Well, I would say all of them are worthwhile, but
Yes,
if I had to
of course.
focus on just one, I'd say the second lesson, which was to be at the intersection of the 75th percentile of two or more skill distributions. So what does this mean? This is based on a blog post that Scott Adams, the Dilbert cartoonist,
Okay.
did a long time ago, which 17 years ago, which was good timing for me as I was starting my career. He basically said, hey, you can either try to be the tippy top best at something in the world,
Mhm.
but you probably aren't going to be.
Right.
And if you're getting career advice from Scott Adams, you probably aren't. Or you can find two or three things that kind of intersect, have some commercial viability, and be at the top 25% in the world on those, which isn't that hard,
Mhm.
put some effort into it.
Okay.
And that kind of is how I've oriented my post-military career, because the
Okay.
company's name is Data Driven Supply Chain.
Yep.
Data science and OR and supply chain.
Yeah.
Not the best at either of those. I'll be honest about both of them, but where they intersect, we can really add commercial value.
So you're in the top 25% of those, you think?
Compared to the whole general population,
Yeah.
I'd say absolutely.
Then you've also got to have like a good soft skill up there too, being consulting.
Absolutely. And that was something that's part of Scott Adams too, is saying one of those skills I'd recommend as you're tacking them on is in communication.
Yep.
Whether it's speaking or writing or both,
Yeah.
because if you can't get those ideas across effectively and understand your audience,
Yep.
it's just not going to land.
Doesn't matter how good your models are.
Yep. Not just the math.
Yeah. Thank you. So I want to know your favorite thing about Inform's conferences.
Oh,
You got one?
yeah,
Could be analytics, could be
I do.
annual,
Yeah, I
one
really,
from each.
it's probably just seeing people that I haven't seen in a while and
Yeah.
meeting new people. I mean,
Okay.
this is a community that is pretty small, but as a professional stuff is, but still there's a lot of people and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not going to see them very often.
Right.
And it's great to just say, hey, how are you doing? It's been 2 years since
Good.
you.
Yeah. So you got your group of Informs friends
Yeah,
you like
yeah.
to
We,
meet up with.
yeah, we have a handshake and everything.
You do.
Yeah, I can't tell you, Kara, but we do.
You can show me off
Yeah,
later.
not for them.
So tell us more about yourself. What were you like in high school? And
Oh,
what advice would you give to that
All right.
younger Ralph?
All right. Well, let me see here. I wrote that down. Here. Probably saying right in my notes. Okay, so it's funny that you ask this, because I'm a big country music fan, and there's a country song from Brad Paisley a number of years ago, and it's called "Letters to Me," and it opens up saying, "If I could write a letter to me at 17, these are life lessons."
Okay.
I'm not going to totally steal from that song,
Okay.
but at least partly.
Can you sing your answer?
No, I they shut off at this point. So yeah, I was very nerdy. Probably not that surprising. Like to run extras and all that different now. That's been important to me for a long time. My goal when I was a teenager was to be a writer.
Okay.
That's why I started off as an English major and just made a hard right transition. I made a hard transition to physics midway through.
Oh my gosh.
Still managed to graduate in 4 years, so that's just good. I mean, so advice, I'd say probably just be more comfortable with who I was.
Yeah.
I think a lot of teenagers,
Yeah.
they don't think they're enough.
Yeah. Too worried about what others
Yeah,
care about, and
yeah,
it
and
doesn't really matter.
exactly. And for the most part, those people, their opinions, they don't matter now. They definitely aren't going to matter in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. Just kind of don't be afraid to be who you are, and try the things that you're afraid to do.
Yeah. That's great. Would you do high school over again?
Oh no,
No.
no.
Not your favorite.
No. It'd be easier though. I know a lot more.
Yeah. You would pass all.
Yeah, I could probably test out pretty quick.
Yeah, I think you'd be good. I have one final question for you.
All right.
So this interview ends, you go outside and you find a lottery ticket for $10 million in winnings. What are you going to do with that?
Okay. Well, I'd probably be racked with guilt by cashing it. So the first thing I will give it a real answer. So probably I would just turn it in and say, hey, please find the right person to it. Either that or give it to my sister and just say, hey.
What if it was a scratch off? You would never know.
That is true. Yeah, that is true.
That's what it is. It's a scratch off.
Okay.
You can't find the person who scratched it.
Okay. Well, then if I did come across a windfall of money, it's hard to say, because I have a pretty frugal lifestyle, and when I think about my life, I have pretty much everything I can care for materially. I would say that I'd probably reevaluate what I do work-wise.
Okay.
I mean, I love being in OR and analytics, but I'd probably kind of just think about what that means for me going forward if don't need to pay the bills. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
um, but other than that, man, I love who I am.
You wouldn't buy one lavish thing for yourself.
I will tell you, my car is 15 years old, and I
Okay.
have been eyeing a used Honda Civic to
Okay.
replace
So you
it.
just
That's like
well, you can
luxury.
get a new one now
I know,
with your $10
I
million.
know, I know. And then I'd worried people would think I'm like wealthy and want to hit me up for things. So that's why I try to keep away
Yeah.
all my relatives.
Definitely don't tell anyone about
No,
the
no,
lottery ticket.
no. That
Keep it.
that Civic, man,
Yeah.
that comes so
Come at you. Well, thank you so much again for joining me today. It was really, really nice to talk to
Me
you.
too. Thank you.
Thank you all for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to all of our Informs YouTube content.